welcome back to the deep dive. You know the drill. We take that overwhelming stack of sources, the research, the notes, the lore, and we carve out a path straight to the heart of what you need to know.
Today, we are undertaking, well, a pretty crucial mission. We're doing a full architectural breakdown of a realm that is, and this is no exaggeration, teetering on the edge of utter collapse.
That realm is the Kingdom of Calem.
Mm-hmm.
And our source material paints this picture of a world built on a foundation of absolute, almost spiritual hierarchy. Power is dictated entirely by your ancestry, your innate ability, and this system has bred some deep, deep resentment.
So our mission today is to give you, the learner, a really solid understanding of the geopolitical structure, the horrific shadow economy that preys on the powerful, and the volatile, complex metaphysical laws that govern absolutely everything.
And tying all of these threads together is this absolutely explosive relationship brewing between a low-born protagonist with these unique intuitive gift lies and one of Calem's most potent highborn lords, Thorn.
And that's the key. Every single structure we analyze today is currently destabilized. It proves that even the smallest personal action, like, say, deciding to help a wounded stranger, can trigger catastrophic, realm-shaking consequences.
It's the ultimate fusion of high politics and high personal drama. Let's just jump straight into it.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's unpack this high-stakes, high-fantasy scenario. I think we have to start with the physical world. Where exactly is the Kingdom of Calem, and how is this volatile kingdom divided?
Well, Calem is geographically substantial. The source is divided into 6 major territories or realms, which right away suggests a fragmented political landscape.
So we shouldn't be visualizing this as one big unified monarchy.
No, not at all. Think of it more as a collection of often hostile domains, each ruled by these disparate factions of the highborn elite.
Okay, so give us the lay of the land. Let's focus on the geography that really matters most to the current crisis and, of course, to our protagonist, Lyssus.
Right, so we can really concentrate on 4 key regions. First up, you've got the Midlands realm.
This is the heart of it all.
This is the heart of the current narrative, yeah. It's home to Archwood Manor, which is where Lys resides, serving a Celestia lord, Claude Huntington.
We'll get to what a Celestia is in a bit.
Definitely. The Midlands are also characterized by their proximity to the Witchwoods. This is a vast sacred forest, and the sources add this really delicious piece of lore about the Witchwoods.
The bleeding trees.
The bleeding trees. They're rumored to have trees that bleed, which suggests this deep, almost sentient connection to the realm's natural and maybe violent essence. This forest skirts several major territories, too. It travels all the way up to the dangerous highlands.
Okay, so that's the Midlands. What's next?
Second, the Westlands realm. This is our main source of external conflict. Its key location is Visalia, and it's ruled by a princess who is openly challenging the central authority of King Euros.
And the Westlands border the Midlands, which is why everything happening at Archwood is so strategically important.
Precisely. Third, the Highlands realm. This is a place defined almost entirely by its ruler, the terrifying Prince of Atris. He's known for enacting the king's most brutal punishments.
Not a place you want to visit.
Not at all. And fourth, the territory of Primavera. Now, this one's interesting because while parts of it overlap with the Midlands, it holds the more, let's say, ostensibly friendly highborn court, which is led by Prince Rainier. So this area is often seen as a place of relative kindness compared to the brutality that comes out of Atris.
So Archwood Manor is essentially ground zero. It's in the Midlands, it's backed by the ancient bleeding Witchwoods, but its front door is basically facing the Westlands, where the Princess of Visalia is amassing her army.
Yes. Lys is literally positioned directly between a rising lowborn rebellion and an internal highborn civil war.
The proximity means that Archwood isn't just some quiet manor.
No, it's a strategically vital crossroads. Any political tremor in Visalia is going to be felt instantly and violently right where Lys lives. The threat of, devastation similar to the destruction of Astoria hangs over their heads constantly.
That sets the stage beautifully. Now, before we dive into the hierarchy, which is packed with specialized jargon, let's quickly confirm the language for the learner.
Good idea.
It's crucial we get these pronunciations right, so the immersion isn't broken when we're talking about the dominions or the shadow economy.
Absolutely. The source material is rich, but the lexicon is unique. Let's make sure we have these down.
Okay, first, the overall ruling class are the Divinus. That's Divinus.
Then the king's name, Euros, is pronounced Eurydices.
And the dreaded region of the Highlands, Vitris, is Vitrus.
The more gentle territory, Primavera, is Primvera.
The descendants of Highborn, the Calestia, that's Cala too,
The complex Enochian term for liss, nala, is nale.
And finally, those magical glowing spheres, the souls, are just pronounced souls.
Simple enough. With that established, we can now move past the map and get into the very core of Kylem's power structure and who really benefits from it.
The fundamental truth of Callum is this absolute and, frankly, terrifying imbalance between the highborn and the lowborn. This isn't just a class divide, is it?
No, it is a divine, immutable hierarchy. It is the single most important structure to understand. The highborn aren't merely rulers, they are the undisputed masters, the scions of the gods, and crucially, they are not mortal.
They exist on a different metaphysical plane.
Exactly. And their power over the lowborn is total.
So what does that total control actually look like in daily life?
It's totalitarian control, but it's cloaked in this kind of aristocratic distance. The sources are explicit. Highborn control every single aspect of lowborn existence.
Everything.
Everything. They dictate who gets an education, who is allowed to own land, who can start or run a business. The lowborn are effectively perpetual minors in their own land.
And yet they call themselves the protectors of the realm. How do they reconcile that massive control with their stated duty?
Well, often they don't. Their claim of protection is frequently just an empty formality. The sources describe them vividly as absentee landlords.
I like that. Absentee landlords.
It fits perfectly. They're only involved when they have to enforce compliance, usually brutally, or when the highly critical annual feasts are due.
And that constant absence, I have to imagine, just fuels lowborn resentment. It's the perfect justification for movements like the Iron Knights.
Of course. If you claim to rule by divine right, you had better provide divine service, and they consistently fail to do that.
So let's climb that ladder now to the Dominions. These are the truly terrifying god-tier highborn.
The Dominions are the apex of power. They're the most powerful highborn, and they're distinguished by their creation myth. They are said to emerge fully formed.
Which makes them essentially ageless.
They aren't born. They simply are. Their entire existence is defined by raw cosmic power.
So what are the limits on the Dominion's abilities?
Yeah.
Or is there a lack of limits?
It feels like a lack of limits. Their powers are nearly limitless and certainly horrifying to mortals. First, there's elemental mastery.
And we're not just talking about lighting a candle here.
Oh no. The sources note they can whip entire rivers into a destructive frenzy with a simple gesture. That suggests an enormous natural energy reserve.
Wow, okay, what else?
Mental manipulation. They're capable of manipulating minds, influencing thoughts, commanding actions. They can also shapeshift, so they can assume different forms, blurring the line between physical appearance and true identity.
And they can even control souls.
Yes, spiritual control. They can inflict massive destruction, but also seize and hold the very souls of lowborn, which is how they create the ray.
Those terrifying cavalry we'll get to in a minute. That level of destructive capability, whipping a river into a frenzy, it makes the king's ultimate agent of terror, the Prince of Vitris, even more frightening.
King Eurus sits at the top. He's the absolute monarch. But the Prince of Vitris, the ruler of the Highlands, is known as the hand that delivered the king's wrath.
And the most chilling example of this was the destruction of Astoria,
a significant city on the borderlands. This act of violence was meant to crush rebellion, but the source notes the catastrophic irony.
It backfired.
Completely. The prince's brutality was so total that it simply fueled the anger and despair of the survivors, creating more rebels for movements like the Iron Knights to recruit. Violence is their political tool, but it's proving strategically inept.
And all this immense destructive power has to require fuel, which brings us to the core, dark secret of Kalam's society, the feeding mechanism.
The Dark Exchange. This is the foundation upon which the entire realm rests, and it is profoundly disturbing. Highborn do not live on lowborn labor.
They live on lowborn pleasure.
They literally feed on lowborn indulgence.
So how does that actually manifest? How does it work?
This pleasure is their sustenance, their life force. It's derived from excessive indulgence in food, in drink, and most critically, in carnal delights.
So the more the lowborn enjoy themselves, the more pleasure they feel, the more the highborn are strengthened.
And empowered. This act of consumption is passive for the highborn, but it's vital for their survival. It recharges their magical and physical might, which is the whole justification for the mandatory annual feasts.
It's a system where the very essence of mortal joy is harvested to maintain the tyranny. The lowborn are just batteries, powered by their own fleeting moments of happiness.
That's a perfect way to describe it. It flips the whole concept of enjoyment on its head. In
Tell me.
Calum, pleasure isn't freedom. It is a vital resource for your oppressor.
Okay, moving beyond the pure highborn, let's talk about the byproducts of power. What happens when a highborn and a lowborn mate?
That rare joining produces the Celestia, the descendants. They age like lowborn, but they possess significant physical strength and endurance.
But crucially, they don't need the dark exchange.
Right. They don't need to feed on pleasure, which separates them from their highborn parentage.
They also have a very distinct visual marker.
Yes, the sources note that Celestia often glimmer. We see this with Baron Claude Huntington, Lys's employer. His skin sometimes carries this faint, distinct dusting of gold shimmer.
It's a visual cue that immediately marks them as belonging to a different tier of being. Sort of above lowborn, but infinitely below pure highborn.
Mm. And this mixed heritage also grants him a peculiar resistance to Lys's power.
It does. It's like a partial metaphysical shield. Liz noted that with Celestia, like Claude, she gets a few blissful minutes of normal physical contact before her intuition snaps into action.
Which is a much longer reprieve than she gets with ordinary lowborn. It suggests the highborn half of their lineage offers some kind of buffer against her gifts.
Now for the most tragic byproduct, the Ray. The terrifying cavalry. These aren't descendants, they are enslaved spirits.
They are the ultimate expression of highborn dominance over mortality. The Ray are the souls of former great lowborn warriors heroes who fell in battle against the highborn elite.
And instead of achieving rest,
Their souls were captured and held by highborn royalty. The result is horrifying. They are reduced to little more than flesh and bone, physical husks forced into eternal servitude as riders for the highborn.
that's the ultimate psychological terror, isn't it? That even the heroic death of a celebrated warrior doesn't grant freedom, but an eternal role as a slave soldier fighting for the enemy. It just robs lowborn resistance of its ultimate moral victory.
That is the specific genius of the Ray. It tells every lowborn that the highborn control everything, from your life to your afterlife.
Before we leave this section, we got this unique glimpse into the highborn mindset through a piece of their language, Enochian. Specifically the term Nala.
Nale. Lord Thorne uses this four-way descriptor when addressing Liz.
And this term is key because it reveals how highborn perceive lowborn who challenge them.
It does. Nala has four very specific connected meanings. First, brave. Thorne acknowledges Lys's courage in saving him.
But then stubborn.
He knows her refusal to comply with his demands. Third is outspoken. Her willingness to talk back to Allure, even one who could incinerate her.
And finally, ungrateful. His accusation after she refuses to let him dominate her life immediately after she just rescued him.
It's not just a word. It's a cultural tool for judgment. If a highborn uses that word, they are simultaneously acknowledging your virtue, your bravery, while condemning your societal disobedience, your ungratefulness.
Exactly. It encapsulates that complex highborn relationship. Fascination mixed with contempt. He's intrigued by her defiance, but culturally programmed to find that defiance unforgivable.
We've mapped the rigid structures of power, but now we have to examine the internal factor that could destabilize everything. The unique gift carried by our protagonist, Lys. She is the wild card. She's described as being born from the stars.
Lys's abilities are not just luck or smart observation. They are complex, involuntary psychic intrusions into the timeline and the minds of others. Her primary gift is second sight,
A combination of intuition, instinct, and foresight.
given, she believes, by the gods.
And how reliable is this foresight?
It's uncanny and often absolute. She sees future events and decisions with certainty. A grim example is her vision of death coming for the prioress, which, well, it proved correct. And on a more personal level, she had that unshakable conviction that she would see the unnamed highborn lord again.
Years before he arrived injured at Archwood. That level of conviction allows her to make decisions that appear completely irrational to outsiders, but are gospel to her.
She also has this profound degree of empathy and telepathy.
Yes, she's an involuntary empath and sometimes telepath. She's constantly sensing intentions and occasionally hearing clear thoughts. When she links to someone, her mind is immediately flooded. Names, ages, desires, innermost secrets.
We saw that when she instantly read the shipping magnate, Ramsay's specific thoughts about the Iron Knights.
Or when she sensed the aggressive, violent intentions of the man in the solarium. She gains immediate, deep, and usually accurate intelligence on the person she's interacting with.
But this power comes at a severe cost. This is not a superpower she can just turn on and off casually. It's a constant, painful noise.
And that's the touch constraint. It's a fundamental physical barrier to her living a normal life. Touching any lowborn or Celestia triggers an overwhelming, chaotic flood of information.
Thousands of secrets, futures, desires, all at once.
It's paralyzing.
So how does she cope with this constant bombardment?
She has two methods for actively dulling her senses to prevent overload, and they speak volumes about her character. The first is alcohol.
But she doesn't like it.
No! Large quantities of liquor dull her senses entirely, but she dislikes it because it dulls everything, including her own precious memories, which she finds just as disquieting as the visions.
And her preferred method?
Soil and gardening. Her preferred and surprisingly powerful method is having her hands deep in the soil. Connecting with the earth and gardening calms the chaos of her mind.
Which implies a deep, maybe destined compatibility with the natural world. It links her to the elemental nature of the dominions, which we see later.
It's an interesting metaphysical distinction, isn't it? The chaos of human society, which requires liquor to mute, versus the calming order of nature, which she achieves through gardening.
She's a creature of the natural world, forced to operate within the artificial hierarchical chaos of Calem.
Well said.
Now, let's discuss the absolute wall her gift runs into. The Highborn.
This is the major structural challenge to her entire existence. Highborn are nearly impenetrable to her abilities. When she tries to sense them, she gets either nothing or only vague impressions.
Which is a significant impediment to her survival and her function as an operative for Claude.
Absolutely. Sensing the Highborn is vital for avoiding trouble. It's as if their divine nature creates a powerful psychic shield.
But that shield is exactly why the case of Lord Thorn becomes so profoundly important. He is the ultimate anomaly.
When Lys touches Lord Thorn, that usual sensory overload just vanishes. When she touched him intimately, she felt nothing intrusive. No futures, no voices, no secrets, just the silence of her own mind.
This is unprecedented freedom for her.
From the lifelong chaos of her gift, yes. And it leads to an intense, overwhelming, and highly pleasurable physical reaction, which ironically directly aids in his healing.
So his presence and touch don't just repel her gift, they actively quiet it. It provides her with a psychological reprieve she has never known.
Yes. It suggests that her unique gifts, while incompatible with other highborn and lowborn, are somehow compatible with Thorn on a metaphysical level.
And her intuition about him manifests differently too. It's less of a vision and more of a physical warning or a strong, non-negotiable compulsion.
Exactly. Her initial encounter with him was marked by an icy wave of pure terror. Before he arrived at Archwood, she had that potent, tingling premonition, a visceral feeling that whispered, he's coming.
And then the overwhelming urge to save him.
The compulsion she felt to save him, despite his danger and her fear, was so overwhelming that she risked treason and death without a second thought. Her intuition is screaming at her that he is vital, regardless of the danger he represents.
We've established the political and metaphysical landscape. Now we have to descend into the dark underbelly of Calem. The shadow economy driven by forbidden bone magic.
This is the world that actively seeks to dismantle the power structure by harvesting the dominions themselves.
This hidden market is the terrifying counterpoint to the glitter of the highborn courts.
It is. It's a market of desperation and dangerous power, and it exploits the one fatal vulnerability of the highborn, their physical components.
So let's start with the tools of the trade. The specific weapons and poisons you need to compromise an ageless Dominion Lord.
The lowborn harvesters require specialized tools that defy the highborn's natural defenses. First, there's Lunio.
Which is absolutely forbidden for lowborn to possess.
Right. It's a milky white stone or blade, and it is the only known object to the lowborn capable of piercing highborn skin. But it's more than just a sharp object. Once embedded, it acts as a deadly, systemic poison.
Contaminating their blood, causing internal burning and severe tissue breakdown if it's not treated immediately.
Exactly. And then there's fool's parsley, hemlock.
The poison used to subdue Lord Thorn.
The harvesters were highly knowledgeable. They used a specific compound they called Porter's House Special. The source notes that a dose strong enough to kill a lowborn was calculated only to weaken a highborn, making them vulnerable for collection without killing them outright and spoiling the harvest.
The precision of that suggests this isn't a new practice. There's a detailed, established trade in this dark magic.
There is, and we need to understand the shocking calculus of power involved. We have to detail, factually and without judgment, the items harvested and their incredibly high value in the shadow market. This is necessary to understand why the attack on Thorn even happened.
Absolutely. So what are the specific applications of the harvested Dominion parts?
It's a market driven by utility and primal need. First, their blood. This is arguably the most valuable.
It's a powerful healing agent.
It can be smoothed over wounds and scars for potent healing. More importantly, when you sprinkle it on barren land, it's said to ensure flourishing crops, making them resistant to drought and disease.
Which tells us the low-born society is likely struggling with climate or agricultural scarcity. That's what's driving the demand for this magical fertility.
Then you have bones, fingers, and toes. Bones can restore health generally, but fingers and toes buried in the soil are claimed to bring water from deep within the land. Again, a desperate need for resources.
What about the other parts?
Eyes are used for psychic security. If you keep them nearby, they supposedly warn you of anyone approaching. Tongues are used as a kind of truth serum. They're claimed to force the truth from anyone who speaks near them.
Simple things, too, like hair.
Woven into mortal hair, it ensures good health, and strips of highborn skin are hung above doors to ward off the nicks.
Let's pause on the nicks. Liz hears they're thin, fast, and able to get in your head. What are they exactly?
The nicks are terrifying creatures. You find them deep in places like the Witchwoods. The sources suggest they're related to the highborn in some dark, forgotten way.
Thinner, faster, sharp teeth and claws.
But their most dangerous attribute is psychic. They can get in your head, make you think you're seeing and experiencing things that aren't there. So using highborn skin as a ward is a direct, albeit horrific way to try and repel a psychic predator that's related to the highborn.
And finally, the carnal harvest, which flips the script on the highborn's feeding mechanism.
It does. The market includes explicit items sought for fertility and desire. Possession of a highborn cock is said to ensure a fruitful union for the owner.
And their cum.
Their semen, is a highly sought-after, powerful aphrodisiac. It's sometimes mixed with herbs to be rubbed onto the skin or even ingested.
This entire shadow economy mirrors the highborn's dark exchange, but in reverse. The highborn consume lowborn pleasure to live, and the lowborn, in turn, seek to consume the physical parts of the highborn to solve their deepest societal problems. Scarcity, illness, defense.
It's a symbiotic horror, and that desperation leads to the most shocking aspect, the conspiracy itself. This was not just a group of greedy lowborn.
Highborn was actively involved in setting up Lord Thorn for harvesting.
The highborn brothers, Muriel and Nathaniel. This fundamentally changes the nature of the crime.
It proves that this supposedly unified, divine ruling class is just riddled with internal betrayal.
Exactly. Lord Thorn revealed that he lured Nathaniel out, knowing his brother Muriel was nearby. Nathaniel was later incinerated by Thorn for his part. But when discussing Muriel, the surviving conspirator, Thorn claimed Muriel was acting out of fear of him.
Wait, why would a highborn, one of the Dominion elite, fear another highborn so much that he would resort to a lowborn plot, using mortal poisons and Lunia weapons forbidden to their own kind?
That is the critical question the sources raise. It suggests that Lord Thorn represented a political or personal threat that Muriel and Nathaniel couldn't overcome with pure Dominion power, perhaps due to Thorn's unique abilities or his political standing.
So using the lowborn shadow market provided a subtle, deniable method of neutralizing a rival.
And it transforms the whole incident from a simple robbery into evidence of deep, lethal political infighting among the scions of the gods.
This internal corrosion is happening at a time when Kylum is facing unprecedented external threats. The kingdom is actively being pulled apart from the borderlands inward.
So let's detail the Westlands crisis, led by the Princess of Visalia. This is far beyond some courtly disagreement. This is a deliberate, violent provocation against King Euros.
The Princess of Visalia, who rules the Westlands court, is openly challenging the king's authority.
And the severity of the rift is demonstrated by an act that is unambiguous treason. The king's chancellors, who are lowborn messengers sent to the princess, were returned to King Euros in pieces.
That's not diplomacy. That's a declaration of war.
It's intended to humiliate and enrage the absolute monarch, and she is backing that hostility with physical force, amassing troops right on the border of the Midlands.
Yes, she's creating a substantial presence along the Westlands-Midlands border. This includes her own battalion, but most importantly, the highly dangerous Iron Knights.
Which brings us to the second, equally volatile threat, the Iron Knights Rebellion.
The Iron Knights are a highly organized, rebellious, lowborn faction. They're led by Commander Vane Balin, and their goal is nothing less than the overthrow of King Euros and the establishment of a lowborn king.
And they are successfully gaining support across Kylum, feeding on that deep resentment of the lowborn towards their absentee rulers.
So you have a lowborn rebellion aligning with a highborn royal who is challenging the crown. That alliance-class warfare, merging with political infighting, is the unprecedented factor that makes the situation so unstable.
It creates a political powder keg. Traditionally, a lowborn rebellion could be crushed by a Dominion lord, like what happened at Astoria. But here, the lowborn resistance gains the legitimacy, the resources, and strategic guidance of a highborn princess.
The danger is absolute.
The moment the princess or the Iron Knights cross the Midlands border, it is recognized as an act of war, risking the same level of devastation previously seen at Astoria, right on Archwood's doorstep.
And against this backdrop of looming civil war, we have Kylem's great annual gathering, the feasts.
The feasts are the required annual event where highborn openly interact with the lowborn. They are mandatory, not celebratory. Their entire purpose is for the dominions to feed on that vital mortal pleasure and replenish their vast elemental power reserves.
What are the conditions for participation, and how does this ritual actually work?
Lowborn participation is tightly controlled by age or marital status. You have to be 22 years old or married. This marks Lys, our protagonist, as eligible for the first time. The structure is one of excessive, forced indulgence.
And the atmosphere is anything but refined.
No, it is chaos and indulgence on a massive scale. The feasts are known for widespread lasciviousness, with attendees gorging on food and drink. Lys notes the profound irony here.
Vast amounts of gourmet food are provided, but much of it just goes to waste.
Because the point isn't consumption, it's pleasure. Participants engage in excessive indulgence and certain activities, often described as large-scale orgies, all generating the spiritual energy the highborn require to be strengthened.
The whole event is a controlled energy harvest, masked as a celebration.
It is the ultimate symbol of the hierarchy. Forced indulgence designed solely to keep the oppressors strong, while the poor lowborns struggle for sustenance throughout the rest of the year. It's the cycle of power in Kylem.
And Lys, who is now forced to participate, knows this entire process is a farce and a massive opportunity for political unrest. Now we arrive at the central incident that synthesized all these elements, the personal crisis that revealed the rot within the hierarchy and the danger facing the kingdom.
The capture and rescue of Lord Thorn, this is the climax of the source material. Lys's decision to follow her intuition was an act of extreme, almost unbelievable bravery.
Risking treason and certain death, she stole her horse, Iris, and rode through the night to Jack's blacksmith barn where Thorn was being held by the harvesters.
And when she found him, the state of this mighty highborn lord, it was
completely compromised.
defenseless.
Which speaks volumes about the efficacy of Lunia and Hemlock. He was stripped to the waist and impaled to a wooden table by 4 Lunia spikes, 2 through his forearms, 2 through his thighs, and a 4th spike was jutting perilously close to his heart.
And they were collecting his blood. In small buckets, yes. To add to the horror, his eyes had been removed, leaving only raw, seeping flesh in their sockets. He was nearly dead from the combination of Lunia poisoning, massive blood loss, and the paralyzing effects of the fool's parsley.
His eyes were gone, but they were regenerating. That tells us highborn aren't just stronger than mortals. Their very biology functions differently.
Absolutely. The regeneration mechanism is incredible. Thorn himself later explains the Lunia toxins were actively being pushed out of his system as white beads in his sweat.
And the physical wounds, even the massive trauma near his heart, they healed quickly, especially after Lys provided water and physical comfort.
And Lys's presence, specifically the pleasure she derived from touching him, also contributed to his recovery.
This ties directly back to the Dark Exchange, but in reverse.
Highborn can feed on their own pleasure as well as the pleasure of others. Lys, finding this unprecedented relief and sensual enjoyment in touching his skin during the shower, contributed a massive surge of positive energy,
which accelerated his healing and strength.
Even though the act itself was innocent on her part, her physical reaction was vital to his survival.
While he was in this near-death state, Lys observed a mysterious detail that disappeared upon healing, those russet-brown markings.
She saw these temporary, vine-like, russet-brown markings running along his jaw and temple while he was injured. They appeared to pulse and come from within his skin. It suggests a physical manifestation of the severe trauma or the expulsion of the poison.
But once he recovered, they vanished completely.
And when Lys asked him about them, Thorn explicitly denied ever having them. This suggests a private, perhaps shameful or highly secret aspect of his nature that he once kept hidden.
Once he was partially recovered, Thorn didn't seek help or contact his peers. He immediately sought brutal, brutal revenge.
His actions were instantaneous and demonstrated the full terror of Dominion power unleashed. He instantly incapacitated Weber, the baker and harvester who had struck Lys. Thorn twisted his arms, broke his bones, and crushed his windpipe, noting simply that was a fatal mistake.
His movements were shaky from the poison, but his ability to inflict death was surgically precise.
But the real power display came in the garden confrontation, which proved his responsibility for the earlier destruction.
Right, he lured out Nathaniel, the highborn conspirator.
And in the gardens, Thorn plunged his hand into Nathaniel's chest and golden fire erupted. This was the same type of golden fire that had incinerated the twin barrels in Jack's barn earlier, reducing them to ash.
So another highborn was incinerated instantly. Just a pile of ash.
Which confirms two things. He possessed one of the highest forms of elemental power, and he was the one who systematically executed all the lowborn conspirators, Finn, Mickey, Porter, and Weber.
He confirmed it himself. He said his motive was revenge and neutralizing a political threat, but also preventing mass retaliation.
He claimed that if he hadn't dealt with the conspirators immediately, his rage would have led him to level half this town. So Lys's intervention not only saved her, but it prevented a Vitress-level devastation from being enacted by Thorn himself.
The intensity of his power, coupled with the revelation of the vulnerability of his own kind, creates the backdrop for this shifting relationship with Lys.
The change is dramatic and personal. Once he's healed, Thorn addresses her differently. He heals Lys's throat bruises and her nose injury, which she got during the fight with Weber, with simple kisses. It demonstrates a control over his power and a capacity for tenderness.
And he notes she's only nervous, not afraid of him.
A unique and critical reaction, and he finally reveals his name, Thorn.
And his continued use of Nala signals his fascination with her.
Yes. He is clearly drawn to her bravery and her outspoken nature, which that Enochian term encapsulates. She is the lowborn who saved him, yet refuses to submit to him, making her an object of profound and dangerous interest.
He also gave her a tangible, beautiful demonstration of his elemental nature and his unique connection to the realm itself.
In the gardens, yes. He demonstrates this connection by summoning Sol's magical, buttery, glowing spheres of light. He clarifies they aren't mortal souls, but the souls of all that is around you. The life force of the trees, the grass, the blooms.
And when Lys, in awe, compliments them, Thorn replies that they appreciate you saying so.
It's an immense gesture. It shows her his deep, almost spiritual intimacy with the elements that surround them. It offers her a peek behind the curtain of his dominion power and confirms his ability to communicate with the world around them.
So we have covered the anatomy of a realm in crisis, from the divine hierarchy to the shadow economy, and from geopolitical threats to the singular catalytic event of Lord Thorn's rescue.
Let's consolidate the key takeaways. The learner now holds the vital context needed to understand the coming conflict in Callum.
First and foremost, we've established that Callum is in a state of highly precarious stability.
The Westlands Rebellion, led by the Princess of Asalia, and its alliance with the lowborn Iron Knights under Vayne Balin, represents an unprecedented threat. It's merging low-born class warfare with high-born political infighting.
And the risk of this turning into an act of war that replicates the destruction of Astoria is immediate and high.
Second, the veneer of aristocratic life is just that, a veneer. Beneath it, a horrific shadow market operates, specializing in forbidden bone magic that targets the highborn themselves.
This market, driven by low-born desperation and the need for resources like fertility, healing, and water, successfully exploited the physical vulnerability of a high dominion lord. It proves that no one in Callum is truly safe.
Third, Lord Thorn himself is revealed to be far more than just another highborn lord. He is an extremely powerful dominion, whose presence in Archwood was a localized disaster, narrowly averted by Lys's intuition and reckless bravery.
She saved the town from his own retaliatory golden fire.
And fourth, Lys's mysterious lineage being born from the stars seems uniquely compatible with Lord Thorn. It bypasses the sensory constraints she suffers with everyone else, which suggests she is destined to play a vital, destabilizing role in his life, and consequently in the fate of Callum.
The sources outline a world where the purported foundations of power are actively crumbling. The supposed protectors of the realm are revealed to be vulnerable, capable of fratricidal violence, and dependent on a cruel system of sustenance.
And this leads us to our final provocative thought for you to consider, long after this deep dive is complete. Lys learned that highborn were capable of self-inflicted, murderous violence, Thorn incinerating Nathaniel, and that one was involved in setting up another for the low-born Shadow Market Muriel.
So if the supposed protectors of the realm cannot maintain order and basic decency among their own kind,
If they're capable of betraying each other and relying on mortal tools to do so, and if their power is fundamentally fed by the pleasure and indulgence of the very mortals they rule, then what true ethical purpose do they serve in Calem?
and critically, what happens to the balance of power when low-born pleasure is no longer enough to sustain the highborn? If the king and his elite require more and more energy, how much more pressure will they put on the already desperate low-born population during the mandatory feasts?
Furthermore, consider the tragic personal fate of Laurelyn, Naomi's sister. Lys's foresight saved Laurelyn from the immediate threat of fever, giving her a reprieve. However, the subsequent vision Lys received marked Laurelyn for death to occur before the end of the feasts.
So was Lys's intervention truly helpful in the cosmic sense, or did it merely postpone the inevitable, turning Laurelyn's fate into a ticking clock set against the backdrop of Calem's looming civil war?
Knowledge grants you power in this dangerous realm, but often the knowledge of the future only brings more profound questions about fate and consequence.
That's it for this deep dive into the volatile anatomy of the Kingdom of Calem. We hope this knowledge prepares you for the high stakes of what comes next.
Be well and keep questioning what lies beneath the surface of the realm.